landscape.
All right, Jeff, we're letting them in.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. I see it's 11 o'clock and Caitlin's letting folks in from the waiting room. So thank you for joining us for our statewide school facility monthly meeting in virtual format. And I'd like to offer a special welcome to any first-time attendees out there. If you are a first-time attendee, feel free to introduce yourself, put your name and maybe where you're at in the chat box. Make sure that when you do that, you message all attendees and panelists. That way we can all see you out there and give you a cash welcome in the chat box. So for all the attendees, you are muted, and we ask that you do use that chat box for any comments or questions that you may have throughout the morning. And as a final reminder about that chat box, please refrain from any marketing in there so that we can keep that chat box clear for questions throughout the morning. Caitlin, if you jump us to the next slide, please. We do have a new member portal on the CASH website, and we urge you to create a profile today. And by doing so, you can access event handouts, you can manage your membership, as well as connect with other CASH members. So if you haven't done so already, please set up your membership profile and take advantage of what's out there for you on the website. And if you do need any assistance logging into your account, you can please email CASH staff, Aileen Dallin. You see her email on the slide there at the bottom if you're having any issues with the member portal. It's full of good information. All right, next slide, please. So September, we have a bonus webinar. September has 5 Thursdays, so we took advantage of that, and we're going to have a webinar that is a partnership with Californians for School Facilities, the School Energy Coalition. And it's going to be a free webinar on federal and state priorities and converging on K-12 and climate issues. So we'll have some conversations maybe on some of the code issues that are happening out there, as well as stimulus funding, some state budget highlights, and again, those climate priorities. So you can find details for that and be able to register for that on the CASH website. Again, webinars are free to our membership, so take advantage of that on Thursday the 30th from 11 to noon. All right, next slide, please, Caitlin. And then we have our CASH Fall Conference coming up on the 18th through 20th of October in Newport Beach at the Hyatt Regency. We're pleased to have an in-person conference there and look forward to seeing you for this great networking opportunity there. And we also have some great presenters lined up. We have our economist, Mark Schneep, and Assembly Member Patrick O'Donnell as keynote speakers. And we'll also hear from Dr. Allison Kwok from the University of Oregon, who will present the results of the first Californian School Facility Research Institute, or CSFRI, research project that we announced at the annual conference back in June. The conference brochure and registration and link to hotel reservations are all on the CASH website. So please check that out and register, and looking forward to seeing folks in person in October. All right, next slide, please. So our first state agency update, we have our state architect, Ida Clare. Thank you very much for joining us today, Ida. I hope you're doing well, and I'll turn it over to you to give us an update from DSA.
Thank you, Jeff. It's good to be here. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to share my screen now. Yeah. Okay. All right. I am always having technical difficulty. How is it that I move the bar so that I can share my screen?
Ida, I'm seeing your screen fine. Maybe just click the start PowerPoint icon?
Well, I can, but I can't see it because the Zoom is blocking the title bar is the problem.
Oh, can you hit the
Hey,
one?
wait, now I got it. I got it to move. Great.
Okay. Problem
Thanks.
solving in real time.
Exactly. It's like there's always something, a new technical issue. All right. Okay, let's get started. Now, why is it not moving? There we go. Okay, so we have about $677 million in plan review for the month of September. That's atop of a similar number that was submitted in August, in which we are under review. So DSA is busy. This is usually what we consider our normal busy, not crazy busy and not slow. So we have been steady at this amount. And at this amount, we're able to manage all our work rather well on a timely manner without having to use consultant contracts. We have 647 million planned to come in October. And in November, with just the first week scheduled, about 85 million. So the end of the year looks to be about the same in terms of busyness for us. Regions in the state that are the busiest is San Diego, and it fluctuates monthly. As you can see, San Diego is usually pretty busy. Oakland's pretty busy. Sacramento is our lightest office. All right. Our access rulemaking for the 2022 California Building Code is in its 45-day public comment period. That ends September 27th. The 45-day public comment period is a regulatory period, informal rulemaking, where stakeholders can make comments, and DSA is required to be responsive to those comments in writing and in a public manner. And so we encourage you to read up on the regulations and clarify. There isn't a whole lot, I think, that is critical to schools in our access package at this time, but it is more items clarifying. There's nothing new, really. It's just more clarifying some issues that have had some interpretive issues in the past. Not a very large package this time. Our Cal Green rulemaking is also in its 45-day comment period. That ends again September 27th, and there's a link provided at the BSC website for you to make a comment. This one's rather important. It requires CO2 monitors for new K-12 classrooms. We are clarifying some requirements on the shade trees, but most importantly, in order to achieve Governor Newsom's objectives, to have electric vehicle infrastructure support, we are doubling the amount of infrastructure required for new parking facilities and additions to parking facilities. Again, this does not yet affect existing facilities existing parking facilities other than if you are adding to them. And it will require 20% of all total parking spaces to have electric vehicle charging infrastructure installed. And of that 20%, 25% will require chargers. So this is the first time that chargers will be required. If the regulatory requirements are approved in December at the Building Standards Commission meeting, they will be effective January 1st, 2023. Our next rulemaking cycle will likely have regulations that address existing facilities, and that of course will have a larger impact of schools, and it is yet to see where we are going with that, but that does occur in collaboration with the Building Standards Commission and the rulemaking they do for Cal Green for all non-residential construction. We do the schools, they do all non-res, so we collaborate with them on the requirements. 2022 Code Structural Safety Rulemaking is in its 45-day comment period. That one ends October 18th. The link to all these public comment periods are on the Building Standards Commission website. They're all the same link to review the express terms. And there isn't considerable changes in the structural safety package. Again, more edits to clarity, but we are clarifying that in the administrative code, construction shall commence within 4 years of approval. There will no longer be extensions, and you don't need to make repeated requests for an extension. Once you have approval, it's good for 4 years. And then, of course, a repeal of the early adoption of mass timber and adopting the 2021 International Building Code requirements for mass timber, which is our model code. Okay. A little bit about the 2022 fire code rulemaking. That is also in its 45-day comment period, which ends October 18th. This is directed by the state fire marshal, not DSA, but we are letting you know that there's a lot of maintenance issues that are regulatory for wildland urban interface areas, which requires the building owner to maintain an inventory of all fire-rated construction and construction installed to resist the passage of smoke. It needs to be visually inspected annually, properly repaired, restored, or replaced when damaged, breached, or penetrated, and also requires landscaping within WUI areas to be fire resistant and must be maintained as it matures. And so this is an alert that these maintenance issues will likely be checked by the local fire authority when they do their regular inspections. And so it's incumbent upon the owner to likely maintain these logs. So when the local fire authority asks for it, they can demonstrate compliance with these regulations. Again, these would also take place, if approved, January 1st, 2023. And of course, the 2022 Energy Code regulations were approved August 11th, which takes great leaps towards building electrification. The energy budgets now are based on heat pump technology for water systems and HVAC systems. And so in order to comply, if you're using fossil fuels, you will need to beef up the envelope. And there are also requirements for photovoltaics to support any new buildings and battery storage as well. These have already been approved by the Energy Commission. They do go to the Building Standards Commission in December, but the Building Standards Commission really addresses that the Energy Commission followed the appropriate statutory process for rulemaking, and that's what Energy Commission needs to demonstrate. It's not always specifically on the regulations themselves, since they have been approved by the Energy Commission. Starting October 1st, is that a question or? Okay, starting October 1st, DSA will be implementing the acceptance testing technician requirement, which means that there will be a note put on drawings submitted after October 1st on the cover sheet, which is a notice to the contractor that they will be required through construction to hire certified acceptance testing technician in order to be in compliance with the Energy Code to perform tests on the indoor and outdoor lighting systems and HVAC systems and controls. For projects submitted prior to October 1st, this acceptance testing, while it's still a requirement, can be performed by the contractor. So acceptance testing has been in the code since 2005, and it's supposed to be performed by the contractor. Energy Commission has realized that a lot of those processes probably haven't been followed, which is why they have started to implement the certified acceptance testing technician program to test out the systems as an independent third party for quality assurance, quality control. What ATT-CP testing does is the testing technician reviews documentation, which are the certificates of compliance and certificates of installation, and they perform a construction inspection that compares the approved plans to the actual installation. And then, of course, they perform functional testing to ensure that all controls and systems work as intended, which means that they will then work in their energy efficient manner to maintain optimum operation. And of course, the beauty of this is the certificates can also be used to test the systems. Facilities maintenance can use the same certificates as a process to test these systems annually and ensure that all systems are operating in an optimal fashion. So again, that will start October 1st. A little bit about AB 306. The governor signed AB 306 in July 9th, and this is for employee and faculty housing on schools. We're bringing notice to you that these projects do need to be reviewed by the local jurisdiction, not DSA. It's very important that your designers understand that these projects are public housing and do need to comply with Chapter 11B for accessibility, even if they are single family homes. A lot of times that gets missed. And so it's very important in order to be compliant with access codes that you review Chapter 11B and they're in compliance with Chapter 11B. We have updated our Access Compliance Advisory Reference Manual to the July 1st supplement, which includes a lot of information on public housing. All our requirements are now in Chapter 11B. There is no reference to 11A. And we also have this guide to public housing that's also beneficial. So that's something that you can pass on to your design professionals as a resource so that they design the projects in accordance with state and federal law. Just to let you know that DSA may still provide overview of some of these projects if they are on school campuses to ensure they do not affect student accessibility, or I should say accessible routes on the campus, and also fire life safety requirements. Because they are not reviewed by DSA and they do not need to meet the field act, they will need some separation from those facilities that do, and DSA may provide an overview of the site to ensure that those safety measures are in place. A little bit about our sustainability resources. We have started our outreach to the state water boards. They will be starting on the MS4 small facility permits. They said soon. So we've presented to the 9 state water boards and gave them an indication as to how to work with DSA and to keep us in the loop and keep in mind how we operate. As you know, there's 4 offices of DSA, but 9 regional water boards. And so the requirements, if they need to interface, could get complicated. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So we did present to them and inform them of what DSA has as jurisdictional authority and how our projects come through our process, and that, you know, they need to be in a timely manner, and they will keep us in the loop as they interface with the school districts and bringing these school districts into the MS4 permits process. We do have others resources on our sustainability plan review page, and also our Achieving Net Zero Energy and Zero Net Carbon page. DSA Academy has launched. Right now, most of the program offerings are for project inspector recertification, but next week we will have our All Electric California Schools Kitchen of the Future webinar. If you missed that webinar on August 26th, it was quite successful. We had about 230 attendees. This is a webinar presented by Frontier Energy and PG&E specifically for schools and how to address, excuse me, all electric kitchens and cooking facilities, whether on a singular replacement basis or on a new kitchen facility basis. So that is viewable for free on our LMS DSA Academy. And that's how you get the link to it, is to go to resources, DSA Academy classes, and then you can find the link to access, excuse me, that webinar. We also have an update on our electric vehicle charging accessibility regulations. And that video will also be available, hopefully the first week in October. I'm almost done. So again, to get more information, especially for new attendees, you're always welcome to subscribe to our listserv. It's on the front page of our website, all the way down at the bottom. Hit the subscribe button, and you can subscribe to the actual list that you want to receive information. And that's it. I'm welcome to take questions after I drink some water.
Take a drink, please, Ida. That was a lot of information that you shared with us.
Sorry.
And certainly a lot of changes. I think that Cash and really all of us are aware of the climate issues that we're all facing right now, and being responsive to those. So look forward to continued conversation with how we can figure out how to make those measures cost effective or pencil out for school districts. And really that's a collaborative effort with all of our partners, not just DSA.
Right. The rulemaking process is the important part because that's the time, pre-cycled in providing feedback, but also in the rulemaking process to provide response. So thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, so, we appreciate all of that work. We did have a clarifying question come in the chat regarding the acceptance testing and confirming that that's for new construction.
It's for new and existing. The energy code has requirements for modernizations as well if the envelope is touched, and also if there's new HVAC equipment. The energy code comes in, including all new controls, and if there's new lighting as well. So it's for both, and it applies to all projects that have lighting systems and HVAC systems that are part of the project.
So certainly a modernization project could have that requirement on it.
Exactly. And again, this really is, excuse me, a notice to the contractor that they need to figure for that in their bids and hiring the third party, because our project inspectors will be checking for those certificates and ensuring that the owners receive them to ensure that the systems operate as they should.
Yeah.
It's Tom Duffy and Jeff, if I could, I appreciate you being with us. Recently, at our most recent TK web shop, we had Doug Humphreys with us, and we discussed DSA's IR EB-4, the existing building IR, and I mentioned this, and I'm not asking for any detail from you at all, but I mentioned this in that DSA will likely have a number of projects submitted that have a TK objective where they're changing the building, an existing building, to say from 4 classrooms to 2 classrooms for TK purposes. The question is DSA looking at 2022 as being a significant year for projects beyond the TK type projects that are going to come in? Will there be a challenge for DSA there? Is there something we can help you with?
Well, regarding existing facilities, I was just speaking with Laura Noss this weekend about it, and Doug as well. In the past, it used to be we'd see 2 projects a year that would meet that threshold, and now it seems like there's many a month. And so we know that there are concerns with the existing regulation. Of course, the process to change the regulation, we're going to start working on it this fall once we get through this code cycle for the next regulatory code cycle. And so we will have we have the methods that we have now to establish the cost comparison. There are choices in that until we actually get new regulations in place. And so we do see 2022 being a bit of a challenge. The regulations, as we progress through the regulatory process in the next code cycle, they would be in effect July 1st, 2023. So for the next 18 months, starting in 2022, will be where we're going to have to address with the existing regulation that we have the replacement value. And yes, we could face those challenges, and we will work with with our clients as we can. But it is a regulation, and so until that regulation changes, it will be a challenge.
Thank you, Ida.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks, Ida. Doug Humphreys really shared on our last web shop some helpful information, understanding, when that requirement's triggered and what districts may be doing in their projects that could trigger that, so they can plan accordingly with their projects. So it was very helpful to have Doug with us.
Thank you. I'm glad he was there for you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you very much for sharing your time and update with us this morning. It's always nice to have you here.
Sure. Thank you. I will stop sharing my screen. Thanks to all of you.
All right.
No more, I assume no more questions, right?
Yeah, I didn't see any new questions come in. So thank you again, Ida.
All right. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks. And our next presenter, we have John Gordon with the California Department of Education with us. Good morning, John. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
And you working in the office?
I've been in the office since April of 2020.
I tell you, you Fresno people are just hardcore.
You know, we get it done, man. Like all of us in the school facility industry. So what's going on at CDE?
Oh, let me tell you, I got a couple of things I wanted to share. I want to remind folks about our upcoming stakeholder meeting that we're having to gather feedback as it relates to gender neutral restroom design. So please visit our What's New page to sign up and participate. We will be closing the signups this Friday, and we anticipate having some meetings here in probably late October, early November. Really excited to hear from folks who have had some designs, as well as talk about some of the issues and challenges that we face, and how maybe CDE can help. And so again, I'll put in the chat box and what the link for our What's New page to encourage people to sign up. We already have a pretty good number of people, but I'm trying to encourage all folks that are interested to, we'll make room for you. So the other thing I want to share today is that in light of National Preparedness Month, I want to bring in my colleague, Joe Anderson, who heads up our emergency services team, to really talk about the status of the California fires that the California has recently faced. And Joe, are you there? Can you talk
I'm here. Yeah. Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah.
Great. So thank you. Yeah, I work actually very closely with John when it comes to schools that are impacted by fires, which unfortunately there are some this year. As you know, fires have been very active in this year and over the past few years. Actually, this is actually not the worst year of fires that we've had in the past 4 years. Last year was actually much worse. But then again, this year's not over yet, and I hate to be such a Debbie Downer about that, but that's part of emergency management, is always kind of expect for the worst and plan for the worst. So just so you know, we are at the peak of fire season right now. Usually October is when we get our worst fires, and that's still to come. Even though the weather's getting nicer, don't drop your guard. The conditions are very dry. There are thunderstorms coming, or chances of thunderstorms coming throughout the state, even this week. So as those happen, that's usually what starts a lot of these larger fires. And this year, we've actually had one of the largest fires in California history, which is the Dixie Fire, which is almost completely contained now, which is amazing. It's at about 94% containment. And with that, we're anticipating that it's going to drop off the radar soon as far as the active wildfire. But this is where the work in facilities comes in, is the recovery phase. So yes, these fires are impacting schools throughout the state, whether it be through smoke damage or directly through fire or through evacuations, or whatever it may be. There are many, many impacts for many schools. In fact, I'm going to give you a brief rundown of some of those stats right now. For example, for school districts that have been affected, or schools, sorry, that have been affected, there are 2 that were damaged in the Greenville area and 4 that were destroyed in multiple areas. And this isn't just schools, but there's school education related facilities as well. And there's about 50 schools that are near active fires at this time. And what I mean by near is 1 to 10 miles away, and potentially could be impacted. And now, of course, they are being impacted by the smoke and evacuations and power outages that go along with these fires, but they haven't been damaged directly. Also, there's many PSPS events that we're anticipating are going to start kicking up. They kicked up around October last year, and that's something that facilities will definitely have to kind of keep in mind, is that there will be a lack of power throughout the state as fire risk increases. Right now, we only have 5 schools that are impacted as of last night, and that could have changed by this morning because the public safety power shutoff events are they're very common and they change quickly. So expect a lot of questions about, are your facilities open, or are they closed? Do they have power, or do they not have power? That's something the media asked regularly, and that's something that's asked by other state agencies and the governor's office as well. So just to talk about kind of this year's fire stats, we've had this year over 2.3 million acres burned, which is a lot. And that's mostly due to the Dixie Fire, which is almost 1 million acres in itself. And fires, we've had, over 7,500 incidents this year, which is actually kind of on the low end over the past 4 years. But as I said, we're not done with fire season yet, so that number is probably going to go up. Fatalities have been actually very low at only 3 fatalities this year, which is still unfortunate, but opposed to the 100 fatalities we had during the Camp Fire year, or 47 we had the year before that, or 33 last year. That's pretty good. And what that shows me is that people are taking evacuations a lot more seriously. I've been seeing that in schools where they do shut down and evacuate, even sometimes under, the warning, evacuation warnings, and not the evacuation mandate period, because there's 2 different types of evacuation levels there. So we are tracking 9 fires throughout the state right now. And of those, 2 of them seem to be dying down, which is great. We always love to see that. And I already kind of talked about the forecast as far as what to expect. It is going to be a dry season. It is a dry season. So fire conditions are still pretty high throughout the state. And to help with all of this, we recognized over the past few years that one of the things that CDE lacked was an easy way to communicate with the LEAs and the schools that are having these issues with the fires or any incident. So because of that, over the past year, my team has developed a new system called the School Emergency Reporting System. So I've notified every LEA about this as of September 1st, and also late August. I sent emails out to all of them. And we've also sent messages through CASBO and other school entities, just so that way we can get the word out. And so I want to get that word out with you all today too. This new system, it really helps kind of connect the LEAs to CDE to to give a situational awareness, but also it's a way for the LEAs to kind of reach out and say, hey, we need help. Our school is closed or our school is damaged and we need this. So of course, I can't come down and help every single one, but I am good at coordinating. So my team is really good at seeing what those needs are and matching them up to who can help them. So while I may not be the one down there putting out your fire, I do know the person who can help you with that, or at least I can find them. So that's kind of the point of the system. It gives us all situational awareness. And by that, I mean there will be a public-facing version of this system where you can see the status of any school throughout California, if they're closed, if they're impacted by a particular incident, by county, whatever. So that's kind of a summary of that, but we are holding trainings for those on Thursdays at 2. So feel free to attend that if you like. I can go ahead and put the link in the chat in a minute, but that's everything I have. So are there any questions?
Joe, I didn't see any questions pop up in the chat yet. I did see John put the link to the gender neutral restroom stakeholder meeting. So thank you for that. And, I'll just add, Joe and John, the preparedness issue is becoming more and more important. And in Fresno County last year, we interfaced with CDE a lot. And, we're still working on getting facilities rebuilt, over a year later, but it really has been a partnership of a lot of different people to get our districts back online fully, including DSA and OPSC for funding of those issues, as well as insurance carriers. So, having that planning in place and the school emergency network in place, I think is going to be a good step for schools to respond to these types of issues. So appreciate your work there.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Joe's an excellent resource, and between he and Jake, they really doing a lot. So please reach out to Joe or Jake if you have really any questions or need any help. So thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you very much, gentlemen. All right, let's move on to our next presenter. We have Lisa Silverman with the Office of Public School Construction with us. Good morning, Lisa. It's board day today, so I'm sure you've got a full day planned and ahead of you. So welcome. Thank you. How is OPSC doing?
Well, don't forget, it's 1 o'clock.
Yes.
It's an early meeting. No, we're doing great, and just wanted to share with you a few updates. As you all know, the bond sale were wrapped up actually last week, And so we're expecting proceeds to come in and moving that forward to the October board for the apportionment. So it's great news for all of us that we can be active in that area. But and I think somewhere around $766 million for those folks who did submit a cert will be eligible for those program funds. And to that extent, I also wanted to highlight that we had over $43 million in project approvals in the consent agenda. And one of the significant things that we wanted to provide an update is a matter that is being addressed by the board is how we will proceed with the $250 million that was made available in the general fund. So if you didn't have a chance to look at it, again, the goal was to activate those funds as quickly as possible. And so we're making some regulation recommendations to have some revisions in that area related to the priority of funding process. And so really the goal is to any projects that we move forward between July 1st and December, actually will have the ability to submit a certification. And again, that certification window is November. And then it actually cuts off just a day after the board, 2 days after the board. But the priorities will be, those projects will be eligible to receive spring bond proceeds, which is great, all those certifications that do come in. And we will activate, as we get those certifications, the first $250 million would be eligible for the general fund. And so again, our goal is to take those projects to the January board. And so again, that gives us the ability to activate those projects fast. And then the follow-up to that is another component is in order for us to keep up with the workload and the spring bond sale, we will actually have additional projects that we'll be working on from the time frame of January through March that actually will be eligible for the spring bond sale. And again, we're making a revision to the priority funding process to adopt that as well. So, and again, it narrowly addresses the new funds that are coming into the program because this is the first time that we've ever received general funds. So again, that's great news for all of us. So technically we are processing 1.75 billion in program grants for this fiscal year. So again, that actually accelerated what we're doing right now. So again, happy to bring that forward to the board and adoption today for approval. And so that goes in effect. We can be able to provide apportionments to those folks for that first $250 million come January. And to that extent, I would want to open up if there's any questions related to that item. And we're actually getting to some projects on the ARBA list and actually extend the use of those funds for the workload list as well. So again,
Lisa, it's Tom Duffy. Thank you for being with us this morning. It sounds like the work that you've planned out for that $250 million is going to happen very, very quickly. So I want to thank you for being so responsive to the advent of those funds and the program. There's a short window between now and January 1st. So you're working overtime, and I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, it's great news. It's a great problem to have, right? And we're still going to fund projects in date order received. So we're not deviating from that process at all. So it's still germane to the program and the program rules. And so again, it's a great opportunity for us to fast track some additional projects in the queue. And again, otherwise those projects would be eligible in the fall for those fall processing for the fall bond sale. But we will make those funds available during that springtime period. So again, there's no damage to any folks or disadvantage to any folks with this proposal. So we're hoping that the board will adopt those changes rather quickly.
Lisa, any thought on that accelerated time funding and the non-participation in a funding round issue?
So that actually won't disadvantage anyone. So if districts want to waive from being accessible to that $250 million, that's not going to create any issues. They have the ability to still apply for or still receive the spring bond sale. And I know timing's everything. And so again, if they don't want to participate with this $250 million in general fund, they have the ability to still access the program cash later in the spring. So again, we'll skip over you, and we're not skipping over you technically because we'll still let you have those spring bond funds that you provided that certification window.
Thanks, Lisa.
And other than that, we had a stakeholder meeting on the expanded FDK program today, and we're actually happy that we actually had some a formal input just a few weeks ago, and I'm glad we actually were able to clarify some of those topics. And I know we've got more work to do. And I know our next stakeholder meeting is going to be October 12th related to those program changes. So again, we really appreciate all the discussion related to this program. And again, we want to make sure it's an inclusive process. With that, we look forward to actually have a new announcement as well. We're going to have the grant agreement as one of your outreach opportunities coming up. And it's going to be the day before the board next month. So we're going to be launching the grant agreement and OPSC online, which is again going to facilitate a lot of transactions between us and make it a streamlined process. And again, we're going to have an outreach event announced the day before the board in October. So we're looking forward to that as well. So you'll see an email blast coming out to you very soon.
All right. Thanks, Lisa. We did get a question that just came up in the chat. Joanne asked about the FIT stakeholder process and if there are any meetings in the near future on that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up, Joanne. Yeah, we did have, we have a lot of balls in the air. Let's be very clear. And we want to make sure that we address this issue at a future time frame. So we're considering some time in December, to be quite honest with you. And so, and with that, just revising, just trying to take a stab at making some mechanics or changes to the tool, because it's been a while since we've actually touched this document. So we're just teetering right now with how can we expand this tool and how would that make, how we can make that work from an electronic standpoint. So again, that's what we're tooling up for right now. So we anticipate bringing that forward in December sometime. So hopefully we'll have some formal announcements by the October meeting and be able to have some stakeholder meetings in the future.
All right.
But thank you, Glenn, for the question.
Yeah, thanks for that, Lisa, and thanks so much for sharing with us today. There are a lot of things happening right now. As Tom mentioned, I'll reiterate, we are excited about $250 million of general fund dollars that are really accelerating the list of projects that are out there waiting for bond authority. So that's new territory for all of us. Appreciate your time again today. And
Jeff, can I ask one question before Lisa goes?
yeah, Tom.
Okay, Lisa, with regard to the grant agreement, are you anticipating amendments to the grant agreement?
No, it's just going to be an online portal. So you'll have access to the grant agreement online, and we'll send some quick links on how that could be a very easy process instead of receiving a separate document from our staff post the board. So it's going to be like some electronic notification. Well, I actually have the ability to pick up in a case management setting after and be notified that the district staff did sign the grant agreement, and then I too will sign that electronically. And so all this is doing this in the cloud environment. So again, this is definitely a time saver for our staff, and I'm sure a time saver for our district staff as well.
We appreciate that work, Lisa. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks again for that clarification, Lisa. I'll let you finish your preparation for the board meeting later today.
See you in a few hours.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
All right, our next presenters are Rebecca Curley, Nancy Chaves Espinosa, and Ian Padilla. They'll give us the legislative, regulatory, and maintenance network updates. So Nancy, I see you popped up first here, so I'll let you kick us off. Oh, you're muted, Nancy.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's good to be with you. I have very little for you today. It's mostly going to be the Rebecca and Ian show. I just wanted to let you know where we are in the legislative session. And that's finally the legislative session has ended. October 10th was the deadline for September 10th was the last day of session. October 10th is the last day for the governor to take action on bills, so to sign or to veto. And I did want to make a reference to a couple of things that some of our other speakers have mentioned. First, the $250 million item that Lisa Silverman mentioned. We want to give our thanks in advance to OPSC for that stretch goal of processing 1.75 billion in SFP projects. And we're obviously very excited and appreciative to all involved in those additional funds and the way they chose to apply them to accelerate projects. I also wanted to reference the wildfire issue that Joe was talking about. There's tie into SAB. We also want to thank OPSC for their recommendation that Paradise Unified's appeal be granted. So Joe talked a lot about what the school districts are going through in the immediate aftermath, and the Paradise Unified School District really presents kind of a case study for us, since the fire was in 2018 and they're a few years down the road. So we're very grateful for OPSC's support of their appeal, and hopefully we'll start to chart a path for how these schools and communities can rebuild after a wildfire. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Rebecca.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm going to be focusing today on transitional kindergarten. So our beloved tiny toilets for our most diminutive learners. So we, as Lisa mentioned, OPSC did conduct a stakeholder meeting this morning, and Cash wants to thank Lisa and her team for all of the work that OPSC has done on this to add the 2 new grade levels, preschool and transitional kindergarten, to the existing full day kindergarten facilities grant program. So we very much appreciate that, and especially appreciate the stakeholder input that you've taken during the process, and how the proposal to integrate those 2 grade levels into the program has really evolved over the last few weeks. So we really appreciate that. Some things that I wanted to highlight from the conversations today, do want to make sure that everybody understands that this is not final, that OPSC and the State Allocation Board do still have some work to do on the proposed regulations, and we'll take them to a future State Allocation Board meeting. But a couple of things, the biggest concern that Cash had raised in this process has been addressed. So in prior versions of the proposed regulations, districts would have provided just current enrollment for your transitional kindergarten grade level. And by doing it that way, the program would have only housed students that are already on site and being served in transitional kindergarten programs. And we believe that the legislature's intent with this $490 million program was to help house kids that we anticipate will be added as a result of the expansion and creation of the universal transitional kindergarten grade level. So we really appreciate that. What OPSC has proposed is to look at current enrollment when you submit your application for your 1st grade, your 2nd grade, and your 3rd grade, and do an average of those enrollment numbers to come up with an estimated transitional kindergarten demand. So based on real data, and not a projection or sort of a guess, but those are the kids that would have required TK had it been in place at the time. So again, we just really appreciate that and think that that was really the intent of the legislation. Another issue that has been updated in the proposal is to go from just a site-based approach to eligibility and expanding that to allow for centers. So we've heard from a lot of our districts that they're interested in looking at early childhood education centers. So pooling the classrooms and program for, say, preschool and TK on the same site. Again, we really appreciate that update, because practically we think that's the way that some of the districts will be going, especially those that have some constraints on their sites and may not be able to add a full new classroom on an existing impacted site, or maybe those districts that don't have enough enrollment to justify a full classroom on a specific site, they can pool that across sites and create a center. So we really appreciate that. Another thing, a question that has come up in prior conversations that Cash has had with our members, there have been some questions about, in this particular $490 million program, do the projects need to be for full day transitional kindergarten programs? And OPSC has clarified that their interpretation is yes, they do need to be full day if we're talking about accessing the program for TK. That is just for this funding program. If while districts are looking to expand their transitional kindergarten, they can do that as part day or full day, just generally. But that full day limitation is just for accessing this $490 million facilities program. We read the statute a little bit differently, but we did want to update that since we have talked about it in prior meetings and workshops that we've done. So we're excited to see where this program takes us. We do know that $490 million is certainly not enough to cover all of the anticipated costs of upgrading facilities so that they're title compliant and adding new classrooms to accommodate all of our 4-year-olds that will be coming on site. But we appreciate the progress here, and Cash will continue to advocate for sufficient facilities funding so that we can get all these kiddos onto our school sites and into our transitional kindergarten programs. So with that, I will transition over to Ian, and please let me know if you've got any questions in the chat, and look forward to continuing the conversation about TK. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca and Nancy. Great updates as usual. Well, I feel like my issues have been teed up almost perfectly, so I'll jump right into them. I wanted to thank Joanne Branch. She asked the question about the update to the FIT, the facility inspection tool, and that is something that the maintenance network is working on right now. Just so folks know, AB 129, which is a small budget implementing bill, contained language that requires the Office of Public School Construction to redo the FIT, basically update it. Of course, we think that's a very good idea. The general timeline in the bill language is June 30th, done by June 30th, 2022. So there is some time, but as we all know, there's a lot of things going on. So the maintenance network is preparing ourselves basically to be a resource throughout this whole process. If a lot of folks remember, or some folks remember, hopefully, Cash and the maintenance network were in on developing the facility inspection tool itself as a result of the Williams lawsuit. Was it over 20 years ago now? In the code, it was called the interim evaluation instrument, but it needed to be developed. And so the FIT is a result of working with folks. If you remember Brooks Allen, LACO, or the Los Angeles County Office of Education, Cash, and others were key stakeholders in developing this FIT. So the maintenance network, Cash, has a lot of institutional knowledge, as well as, of course, the folks that did this initially. So we're definitely looking forward to doing that. What we're doing specifically is creating of course, small working group, working with Joe Dixon on that. And we'd certainly like to, obviously, include some folks that are new, that are sensitized to some of the issues that we've dealt with COVID, and some of the issues that you're hearing from the agencies today, right? The M&O impacts of green and sustainability, the issues of disaster preparedness, resiliency, all those are also maintenance issues. And so we think that it would probably be good for this new document to start capturing those pieces. It's more than the future, it's here. But we also know that it's a document that M&O and facilities departments have used for decades now. And so we think there's a lot of good there, and a lot of consistency is important too. So kind of our thought is balancing this consistency, taking what is good about it, but then improving it. So it's a tool for districts to really be able to look seriously at their building systems, their ongoing maintenance, and also provide a real tangible justification for the funding needed for that, as we talk about a lot of funding going around these days, not just billions, trillions. So that's kind of a quick piece of just wanted to let folks know that the maintenance network is on that, and that'll be a primary issue of focus as we go forward. Lot of work to be done. So if you're interested in this, definitely give me a call, email me, and we can talk. But just want to let folks know that we're definitely on this issue. Another issue, and the state architect brought it up in her comments, is she's working with the State Water Board on their new MS4 permit, which, as you've heard from me many times, is proposed to include schools. So we are also, Cash Maintenance Network are also at the table in those discussions. The only thing I'll say at this point, there's not a lot of specifics, but the state architect's involvement has really, I think, is going to be very helpful. We were kind of searching around in the dark, in previous years, as we've kind of searched for longer term, more significant solutions. Luckily, we did get the non-designation, gave us some time to work, but likely won't get another one of those. And the state architect's involvement, because the state architect is involved in so many of those pieces, or potentially is, it's all to say we're really getting down to the brass tacks with their involvement. I will also note that in the meeting with the water board, I thought it was a healthy sign that not only state water board folks were there, but also representatives from all 9 regional water boards. That's the first time in doing this over 20 years that they have been brought in. So that's a significant piece. I think in a very good development for sure. So we're of course going to continue to work on that, and you'll hear more about this and other of these issues that the maintenance network focuses on coming up in workshops and at the fall conference. And you hear our pitches, but these will definitely be some of the pieces to focus on. The last one, just to mention, is we've mentioned it, and Rebecca also is keeping an eye on this, and others, AB 599 Jones Sawyer, that has to do with the Williams inspections. That was approved by the legislature, and it's being considered by the governor. So we're also working with the Department of Education and other stakeholders to see if this bill passes, what does this mean, and get to work on that as well. So it's another significant piece. I was commenting to a friend the other day, it's like Williams all over again. All these issues are back, and we're dealing with them right up front. So we have a lot of work to do. The last thing I'll say is I'm going to, go ahead, Rebecca.
Can I just add on that really fast? Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's great.
I wanted to give late breaking information on AB 599. Thanks to John Gordon. He helped clarify our understanding of AB 599 and what the SPI will be doing to develop the new list of schools for inspections. For the current year, county offices will use the existing old list of deciles 1 through 3 schools that we've been using now for, I hate to say it, but a decade. And the new list will be developed in 21-22 and will be available for use in 22-23. So John, please feel free to add if there's anything else, but that was my read of the legislation, and that's been confirmed by CDE as their understanding of the process. So that's super helpful as the inspections are starting up again. And then a reminder that the flexibility provisions that that county offices had for administering these inspections mostly go away now. So those were through 2021. There is some flexibility that was adopted in a recent trailer bill, but that's just related to the 25% unannounced visits. So the need to do the in-person visits does come back in this fiscal year.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's, yeah, I saw that. when Rebecca said late breaking news, she was literally, it was scrolling across as I was talking from John. So thank you, John, for that, for your effort on this, as well as that perfectly timed news. Just quickly, I'm going to do I'm done with my updates, but on behalf of Dave Walrath, I'm going to give a quick Californians for school facilities. Basically, what I'm going to do here is, you heard Jeff talk about the webinar on September 30th for CAS, CSF, and SEC members, and I just also want to push that. That's going to be a really good webinar. Particularly, we're looking at the state and federal priorities and how there's going to be some converging, or we think there is, or we're talking about that, right? There's a lot of federal money, trillions, not billions, but a lot of that will be administered through the agencies and so on. So there's a little work before that, but that's important groundwork to lay, and it's an important way to understand a lot of the things we're talking about. So an important one. Specifically, topics to be addressed will be the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation piece, the K-12 provisions, and also maybe what's in the energy efficiency pieces. What else can schools use? Also the energy efficiency packages, state issues, and state climate priorities. We heard some of that, or the result of some of that today. Going to be talking about that, and in particular, Ana Ferreira, who is now with the CEC, but was formerly with MWH and worked for CASH and certainly the School Energy Coalition. She will be returning to participate in that. So I'm very much looking forward to that personally. But more than that, we think that's going to be very productive. So make sure and take a look at that again. The 30th, it's free to CASH, CSF, and SEC members, 11 to 12. And the speakers will be Bob Canavan, our CFS lobbyist. You've heard from him. Ana Ferreira again. And then you all know Dave Walrath, who is going to moderate. So put that one on your calendars. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ian. And I think we're going to go back one slide and bring back Nancy to talk quickly about School Energy Coalition.
Hi, I believe Ian was doing SEC update, or did you just cover that, Ian?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, pretty much I think this is covering it. That's the most, I would say, recent things that the SEC is working on in terms of an ability to take a look at what are all those new federal programs and so on. So yes, that's basically it, is SEC, and SEC will be doing a lot of work, background work on that webinar. So yes.
All right. Yep. Thanks.
Thank you.
Double
Sure,
dip
sure.
in there with an update for Californians for School Facilities and SEC at the same time, multitasking.
Yeah.
All right, let's have Alan come up and share with us a bit about the upcoming annual conference in February of 2022. Alan, how's it going?
Oh, great, Jeff. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're excited. The planning is actively moving forward for the 43rd annual conference on school facilities. The tentative dates are set for February the 23rd through Friday, the February the 25th at the newly remodeled Safe Credit Union Convention Center in Sacramento. We're super excited about bringing the convention back to Sacramento and seeing what they've done with the convention center and all the great work that's done there. So we're super excited about that. The planning committee has been working really hard on some great topics that we'll be presenting in our workshops. We met last week to finalize all of those workshop selections. Everyone who submitted a proposal has now been notified. We received upwards of 200 proposals for workshops. Some of them were very great topics that were presented to us. We had a great conversation about selecting those topics. And we want to really thank everyone who submitted a topic. Even if it wasn't selected, we really appreciate your involvement and your commitment to the organization to submit some wonderful topics. And we really want you to submit future topics for future conferences when we put those requests out again. The planning committee is scheduled to meet again in October, where we'll be working to continue to develop those great workshops and those mini workshops that we'll be presenting at the conference. In addition to that, we'll have the Cash AIA Leroy Green Design Awards. The call for entries is now open. So if you have all those great designs out there that you're working on in your school districts or in your firms, please submit those to us, because we'll be going through those designs and selecting some of those the great work that's happening out there for recognition during the conference. So that was a quick update. I think we hit all the major points, Jeff. So I know we're running a little long, so I'll turn it back over to you so we can continue with the rest of the meeting.
All right, thank you very much, Alan. So one of the good things about these meetings that we've been having is just a quick word from school districts on their COVID reopening experience. And we're excited today to have Denver Stairs with us from Clovis Unified School District. He's the Assistant Superintendent of Facilities there. So Denver, welcome. Thanks for being with us today. And I'll let you share a bit about your experience in reopening your school district.
You bet. Thanks for having me. It's been an adventure, right? Like I think it has for all of us. As we got closer to the start of school, our numbers started to creep back up. And so there was a lot of kind of anxiousness that was taking place. We're in a situation where we had about a third of our kids came back last year. And so then this year, transitioning to, we were offering full-time on-campus instruction. So we've done a number of things to kind of ease minds and make sure everyone is safe. In the fall, or in the spring rather, last year, we implemented and installed the bipolar ionization machines in all of our conditioned spaces. We are in the process right now of installing in-room HEPA filters in every classroom, cafeteria, and library district-wide, just to kind of work in conjunction with those. Coincidentally, with the bipolar ionization machines, as we were talking earlier, we're a level 5 on our air quality index today in our district from all of the fires surrounding us. We've gotten 0 smoke complaints in our classrooms this year with the install of those ionization machines and now the HEPAs. So it is improving our indoor air quality quite a bit. In and out. If I'm out my window, it's really hazy, but in our rooms we're not seeing that. So we're excited about that.
Denver, it's Tom Duffy. What funding did you use for that equipment?
We use our ESSER funds for that.
And how much did you spend?
It was the HEPA filters for our district wide was right about 4.5 million. And then the bipolar ionization machines were about 1.6. So a big chunk, but we also in the valley here, as we've alluded to, we always have poor air quality. So this idea of optimizing indoor air quality for our kids is something that will last well beyond COVID. So we took advantage of that opportunity as well. So
in Denver, you've always done a really good job in your district in communicating with directly with parents and with voters, as with your bond last year when you had lost the bond and came back and passed it. So you maintain close communication with your community. So with that thought, were you communicating exactly what you were doing with the bipolar ionization and the HEPA filters and the expenditure of that ESSER money?
We were the bipolar ionization. We actually were publicizing, and we were putting out that we were improving indoor air quality as part of the bond. And so we had that. We put out a series of videos. Bipolar ionization was a hard one because it's that technology that you can't see. So we did a series of videos explaining how they work. We had people out in our classrooms. And then with the HEPA filters, same way. We actually just filmed a video on Monday with one of our 5th grade teachers explaining how to use it in her classroom. And then actually I'm doing an interview today with one of the local news channels today to put out. So a lot of publicity. We sent out flyers to our community members, letting them know we've had one of these. The HEPA filters are enormous. They're I am 6'4" and they're about as tall as I am, so you cannot miss them when you walk into a space. So our classroom teachers have been decorating them, and so we're having a contest that's being publicized just to try and, they look like a giant filing cabinet, but about 2 feet taller. So lots of publicity on what the positive effects were. A HEPA filter gives you the equivalent of a MERV 17. The units that we're using turn the air over 3.5 times an hour. So we exceed that rating or the recommendation there as well. So a lot of folks are really excited about that. And now it's just getting them delivered. So in addition to all of that, we have now the added cleaning. We had a great cleaning plan in place last year. But then when you add an additional 2/3 of the students, now we're full-blown athletics. And so we've had to adapt our cleaning plan in order to meet the needs of all of our students and staff on campus, not to mention the fact that, we're dealing, like everybody across the country, I'm sure, is dealing with shortages. We're averaging around 45 to 50 members of our plan ops team that are absent every day right now, be it because they're on quarantine or because they're sick themselves or because they had regularly scheduled vacation that they're taking. So working through what that looks like, we're hiring an additional person at each of our high schools to help, because that's really where the bulk right now is happening with, like I said, with athletics, and then just the number of students that we have on campus. So like I said, it's been an adventure. We're excited though to have, back to our normal conversations. We had a water main break on one of our campuses a couple weeks ago, and it was great to get a team out there, and we're dealing with normal issues again. Not that you ever want to have that, but we kind of caught ourselves enjoying that conversation as we were back out on site doing our normal jobs. So it's been great. We look forward to coming out of the back end of this, as we've got a lot of stuff coming and going through in our district. But we're excited to be able to have everybody back and meet the needs of everybody on our campuses.
Denver, how do you think you're going to be impacted by the testing requirements that are going to go into effect on October 15th?
Yeah, that's been a major point of conversation for us as we get closer to that date. So we're actively working on a plan. Trying to get tests became an issue. And so we're lucky that we had been ordering them earlier, because we were planning to see if we were going to have to test our kids in athletics. So we had a shipment coming in. We're also working with an outside agency that will come in and set up in your parking lot, and kind of they'll set up a testing center. And so we're looking at a lot of different options. We have already sent out testing kits to all of our campuses. So our schools are testing students on campus with parents' permission and parents there if there's an exposure or if they need to be tested to come back on campus. So we'll just expand that further. But when you're dealing with staff, right, you get into that. If you do it during the school day or during the work day, are you paying them to go? So we're trying to make sure it's as convenient as possible and takes the least amount of their time away.
Yeah, good comments. Appreciate you sharing with us, Denver. And yeah, I'm glad the air is not smoky inside your classrooms. It's smoky outside for sure. The harvest moon is very red.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, Denver.
You bet.
All right. Take care. All right, Caitlin, if you move us to the next slide, we're coming up on the end of our meeting. So just a couple other things. Wanted to highlight the job exchange. If you have an upcoming RFP or RFQ or job opening in your district, please utilize the Professional Opportunities Job Board on the CASH website. You can reach a pretty diverse group of folks out here and a little broader than maybe just your region. You can cast that statewide net. So remember to log on to the website and post those there. And I did see one comment come up in the chat just regarding the piggyback issue. And yes, CASH is looking at that piggyback issue. We'll have a bit more soon. I think the the best thing to say about that is, always consult with your legal counsel when you look at that. And I know that districts do the right thing there, but we should have some more information on that shortly. So I'm taking a final look at the chat to see if, there was a long one that Rebecca posted. Thanks for that, Rebecca. Not seeing any new comments in the chat. So please mark your calendar for the next cash day, which will be October 27th. And don't forget about the fall conference again in between cash days here. And I want to wish everybody a great day. Stay safe, stay well, and have a good day. Thank you, everyone.